Right now, while you're watching this video, something is happening inside your body that sounds like it should be terrifying. Every single one of your cells, and you have somewhere around 37 trillions of them, is getting its DNA damaged. Not once, not rarely, tens of thousands of times today in every cell. And here's the part that's going to bother some of you. It doesn't matter how clean you eat. It doesn't matter if you've never smoked, never sunbathed, never touched a processed food in your life. This damage is still happening right now in your cells because of the simple act of being a living, breathing, metabolizing human being. So today, I want to walk you through 3 things. What this damage actually is, why it happens even in the perfect life, and this is the part that changed how I think about sleep, how your body has a built-in nightly repair crew that only shows up for work when you're unconscious. In other words, when you're asleep. So, let's get into it. What is a DNA lesion actually? First, some quick definitions, because I'm going to use these words a lot and I want you actually following along, not just nodding. DNA lesion. DNA lesion just means a spot of damage, a chemical change to your DNA that shouldn't be there. Think of your DNA as an incredible long instruction manual written in a 4-letter alphabet. A lesion is like a smudge, a torn page, or a letter that's been chemically altered so it now reads wrong. Mutation. Mutation is different. A mutation is what happens if that lesion gets copied into the next generation of the cell before it's fixed. So lesion first, and if it's not repaired correctly, mutations second. That distinction matters because it's the difference between damage and permanent damage. Now, here's the number that made me want to make this episode. Researchers estimate that a single human cell, just one, picks up somewhere between 10,000 and 100,000 DNA lesions every single day. Let me repeat it again. A single human cell picks up somewhere between 10,000 and 100,000 DNA lesions every single day. Some estimates for total damage, including things like replication mistakes, run even higher, into the hundreds of thousands per cell per day. Now, multiply that by your 37 trillion cells, and you start to see why researchers describe the genome as being under what one major review called constant assault. This isn't a fringe idea or a wellness influencer talking point. This is textbook cell biology. Your body is at this very moment sustaining and repairing damage at a scale that's honestly hard to picture. And it's doing it well enough that you don't notice it, most of the time, for decades. So, where does all this damage actually come from? The baseline, damage from just being alive. Here's where I want to bust a myth that I used to believe myself. That DNA damage is mostly something that happens to you. from the sun, from cigarettes, from bad food. That stuff matters, and we'll get to it, but it's not the main source. The biggest chunk of daily DNA damage comes from normal metabolism. The ordinary chemical processes your cells run to keep you alive. There are many contributors, but I'm going to name the three biggest contributors. 1. Oxidative stress. When your cells burn fuel for energy, a byproduct called reactive oxygen species, or ROS, gets released. These are unstable molecules that can chemically react with your DNA and damage it. This is happening constantly in every cell that's using energy, which is basically all of them. 2. Spontaneous hydrolysis. This one's wild. DNA is chemically unstable in water. Just sitting in a watery environment inside your cells, DNA bonds can spontaneously break down. No toxins required. No outside causes at all. It's a property of the molecule itself. Number 3, replication errors. Every time a cell divides, it has to copy 3 billion base pairs of DNA. Even with your body's built-in proofreading system, some errors slip through. None of these 3 requires you to do anything wrong. They're the cost of having a metabolism at all. That's why I call this episode The Price of Being Alive. It's not a punishment for bad choices. It's the baseline tax your biology charges just for running. Now, on top of that baseline, you've got the add-ons. UV exposure, air pollution, cigarette smoke, certain chemicals, even excess alcohol. Those genuinely add more damage on top of the metabolic baseline, and minimizing them absolutely helps. But I want to be really clear about the framing here. Even a person living about as clean as physically possible is still generating tens of thousands of lesions per cell per day, just from being a living organism. There's no version of eating perfectly that gets you to 0. And here's a nuance worth sitting with for a second. Even exercise, which is one of the best things you can do for your long-term health, temporarily increases oxidative stress and lesion formation because you're burning more fuel and using more oxygen. That's not a reason to avoid exercise. Your body responds to that repeated stress by upgrading its own antioxidant and repair systems over time, which is part of why regular exercise is protective in the long run. It's a short-term cost for a long-term upgrade. More on that trade-off in a future episode. So, if damage is constant and mostly unavoidable, the real question isn't how do I stop it? It's how does my body actually deal with it? And that's where this gets interesting. Sleep, the repair shift nobody clocks in for. Your cells aren't just taking this damage lying down. Pun very much intended. There's a whole system called the DNA damage response, or DDR, a network of proteins whose entire job is to find the lesions, flag them, and fix them. The DDR, or the DNA damage response, is working around the clock. But here's the discovery that I think is genuinely one of the most interesting findings in sleep science from the last decade. The DDR doesn't work equally when you're awake or when you're asleep. It ramps up dramatically during sleep, especially in neurons, your brain cells. In 2019, a team from Israel, led by Professor Applebaum, used live imaging in zebrafish, which are transparent as larvae, so you can literally watch inside a living brain. And they tracked individual chromosomes in real time. What they found was during wakefulness, chromosome movement is low and DNA breaks steadily pile up. During sleep, chromosome movement roughly doubles, and that increased movement is what allows the repair machinery to actually find and fix the damaged breaks. Professor Applebaum has a great analogy for this, and I'm going to steal it here because it's the clearest way to explain it. He compares it to potholes in a road. Roads take their wear and tear during the busy daytime rush. That's your wakefulness, full of activity and traffic. And you can't efficiently repave a road while it's full of moving cars. You do it at night when traffic is light. Sleep is your brain's overnight repaving crew. A follow-up study from the same lab went further and found something even more specific. About 6 hours of consolidated sleep was enough to bring neuronal DNA damage back down to baseline. They also identified a specific protein called PARP1 that acts like a damage sensor. When DNA damage builds up past a certain point, PARP1 activity increases, and it appears to actually help drive the pressure to sleep in the first place. Then recruits the repair proteins once sleep begins. Put those two studies together, and you can get a genuinely striking picture. DNA damage isn't just something sleep happens to help with as a side effect. It may be one of the actual reasons your brain demands sleep in the first place. A homeostatic pressure, like hunger or thirst. Except the thing building up isn't an empty stomach. It's unrepaired damage in your neurons. That reframes what a bad night of sleep actually costs you. It's not just feeling groggy or unfocused the next day. It's a night where your brain repair crew didn't get its full shift. And the damage that should have been cleared carries over into the next day's workload. This damage can accumulate and lead to many diseases over the years, such as dementia, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, cancer, premature aging, and more. So, let's bring this together. Every day, just by being alive, your cells sustain tens of thousands of DNA lesions each. From oxidative stress, from DNA's own chemical instability, from simple act of copying your genome. No diets gets you to zero. Even exercise adds to the load temporarily, though the long-term trade is worth it. And every night, sleep opens a window where your DNA damage response ramps up. Chromosome movement increases, and your neurons get a repair shift that wakefulness simply doesn't allow. That's the foundation. Once you understand that sleep is doing this kind of maintenance work, not just resting, a lot of other advice about sleep starts to make a lot more sense. In upcoming episodes, I'm going to dig into the intervention side of this. Things like why the timing of your last meal and your last glass of water before bedtime might matter more than people realize, for how well this repair process runs. That's a deeper rabbit hole, so I'm giving it its own episode. If this shifted how you think about sleep, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.